What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today's video, we're actually gonna be starting a new project, as you can tell by the title, but this deal was just too good to pass up. So check out my new $40 mini quad. So I was going Facebook Marketplace, as I usually do in my free time, just looking at random projects and toys that I listed up, and saw this thing listed up for 50 bucks, and I thought it was too good to be true. Hit the dude up, and he said 40 bucks, come get it. So I said, shoot me an address, I'll be there. Ran out and picked this thing up. It was only like 20 minutes from my house, so it was pretty sweet. But this thing is pretty solid for $40. This thing's got way more money in parts on it than it's even worth at this point. But it definitely has its issues, so that's really what I want to actually start with in today's video. So it does still have its 125 engine in it, so this thing does seem to be a BMS Mastiff 125. I tried doing some research on this thing the couple days I had it, if you've seen it in the background the last couple videos, but I can't really find much on this thing at all. So more I've been looking at it, it just definitely needs a little bit of work. I'm really hoping I can get this engine running, because it seems to be all there, but for the most part the wiring is a little shoddy. So I was told this thing just is missing a key, a chain, and a battery, but the more I'm looking at it, it's definitely missing a few more things. So I didn't really care for 40 bucks. I literally just said no questions asked, let me just snag it and I'll get out of your hair. So it is missing a rear brake caliper. It does still have the pedal and the master, so just needs a rear caliper, which I might just end up ordering a whole new caliper setup just because it's pretty cheap. But this thing does actually have some nice parts on it as well. So it has hydraulic front rear disc brakes, so pretty nice there. Also has some external reservoir shocks on the front. Probably fake, but hey, they look pretty cool. I've been wanting to order them up for the other quads as well, so but they are just a little too pricey, so pretty happy I got those for free. But I also got some little lights hooked up on it, so hey, we can maybe use those up on another project. Even got a little LED light on the back as well. But for the most part, this thing is all there. I just been kind of figuring this thing out because I've never owned one of these 125cc engines that actually is a shifter. So I think this thing has reverse, neutral, and 1, 2, and 3, at least what I could tell by this little tag here. But this thing does have a little clutch handle, but I've been looking at this thing for probably a good hour trying to find a clutch lever anywhere, and I just cannot find a clutch on this. So I'm thinking this thing is a semi-automatic 3-speed, which is kind of cool. So I do have some kind of cool ideas with this thing if we can get this motor running. But in the end of the day, we can always swap it to a 6 horsepower like the mini drift quad or the off-road quad, but we'll see. But we'll talk about that later on. We'll see if we can actually get this engine running. So that's what I want to start off with first, actually getting these plastics ripped off of here so we can get a look at all the wiring, because the more I'm looking at it, I'm seeing some spade connectors, some cut wires and stuff. So I want to get an idea of what this wiring harness looks like, see if we can just kind of fix it up, or if we need to replace it. I can order it up now because it is Monday and this video goes out on Friday, so I can try to order up some parts in the meantime and hopefully get it running by the end of today's video. So let's get to work on this thing. I'm gonna get the plastics all ripped off real quick and get some of this wiring pulled out and see what we got looking at. So I just got the front and rear plastics pulled off of this thing and just set off to the side for now. Probably gonna end up just tossing these off or whatever, because they are broken already, and I don't really like the look of plastics on ATV like the other 2 quads I have. I kind of like just the frame look on them, so probably what I'm gonna end up keeping on this thing. But now that we got the plastics off, we can actually start seeing some of the wiring in here. I did notice it actually does have a upgraded shock in it, so that's pretty cool. I'm liking that. But the wiring is looking a little bit of a mess, so whoever added these lights in did not know what shortening wires was. So we got a whole bundle of wires zip tied up in here. So I'm gonna end up starting to delete some of this out and tracing it back. It comes to this little white box here, the little fuse, and then it's got a whole another jumble of wires in here. So I want to get some of this chopped out of here, get it kind of cleaned up a little bit, start exposing just the wiring harness itself for the engine and actually see what's cut and what we need to fix. And if I need to order up one now, I'm gonna try to get it ordered so we can have it for this video. But if I'm kind of cross my fingers, I can just kind of fix this one up a little bit. It doesn't seem to be too bad, but whoever had these lights in did not know what they're doing. So let's get to work pulling some of these lights and stuff off and getting this wiring all kind of cleaned up and exposed. So I've been working away on the wiring here on the new quad. I ended up ripping off all the new old front headlights that they had wiring on here. Probably took 10 or 20 feet of wiring off this thing. It's kind of crazy, but I'm glad that's off here because it really just kind of opened up all the rest of the wiring harness for the engine itself. So starting at the back, looking not really too bad. I noticed someone wired in a LED light, so we got some butt connectors here, and it just looks a little shoddy, so I might look into that later, but really not the biggest issue for right now. We got the power and negative for the battery. I have a fuse here. I'm gonna have to check that out, make sure that's all good to go, but these are all looking nice and smooth and not really rusty at all, so we're good to go there. And moving our way forward, we got our starter solenoid here, and I noticed these two wires were chopped off here, but looking up at the harness, I found the two ends right there, so we can just kind of hook those back up, tape it all up, make it look nice, mount it all back together where it needs to go. And moving up again, we're kind of moving to this other side here where the ignition is. So I noticed that the ignition here has a couple butt connectors. It is all connected, but it's just not really the best. It's kind of hard to tell, but kind of got a wire going to butt connector, wiring it to the ignition, and then following the ignition coil down, I noticed that the wire itself has been hitting on the exhaust for a little bit, and then the spark plug itself is actually broken inside of here. So I might even see if I can just kind of replace this. I might have a spare one sitting in the backyard. I'll check out later. But moving our way forward, everything else is looking pretty good. I was told it has no key, so we do have that unplugged right here, and the plug for the harness is right there. So I was just looking to see if I can order up a key and maybe just find something to replace this real quick and just wire it right in. But other than that, I only see couple butt connectors here. I'm guessing they're for the lights because I got two blacks and two greens. So I'm gonna guess that's for the front existing lights that were on this thing. The only plug I have no idea about is this one right here. Little 4-prong, couple wires going to it. But I don't really think it's for nothing too crazy for the engine itself. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers. So we're actually looking pretty good on this thing. So I'm actually gonna start working away, wiring up some of this stuff that's actually broken. Maybe start cleaning up some of these ends, get some of this rust off the starter solenoid, and just kind of start prepping this thing and looking into researching a few things like a new spark plug, what wiring is going on here, and if I can get a key hooked up. I actually did kind of think this ahead and ordered up a key for it, but it is not the right kind of wiring pattern for it, so I'm going to either have to swap the pins out of the connector itself or just kind of rewire this all to the correct way it is on here. So I might look into that again and kind of see what we get knocked out tonight. So catch you guys here in a little bit. What's going on, guys? So it's actually the next day. Last night I ended up getting to work on a lot of the wiring harness and got a lot of it knocked out already. And at that point I was just kind of ready to call it a night. So kind of just called it at that point, didn't really film anything. So I ended up actually going through the whole wiring harness basically from front to back, and I started at the back here, pretty much just kind of locating where everything's gonna go. So I got my positive and negative terminals here, and I was peeping this fuse here. I did notice that this fuse is blown, so we're gonna have to replace that, or either replace it with like a whole new automotive style fuse, kind of something like on this wiring harness here for the LED lights. I might even just snag this one and put like a 10 amp fuse in it or something. But other than that, nothing really too crazy. Kind of moving our way forward, I was talking about how the starter solenoid wires were all disconnected here, so threw a couple spade connectors on there so we can still disconnect this and pull it off if we need to. And moving our way forward, nothing really else too crazy going on here. Was talking about the ignition coil has a couple weird little things going on here. I think I'm just gonna leave it for now and actually see if we have spark through this spark plug wire. I did end up pulling the spark plug out just to see if I can find one locally, which I couldn't, and I ended up just ordering one up. So we'll have one here tomorrow with also a brand new battery as well to actually get this thing cranked over. But I want to see if we got spark out of this ignition coil, and if not, you guys just saw I stole one off another ATV I have in the backyard. We'll talk about later, and I got sitting there. If we need to, we can kind of wire that in and see if we can get spark on this thing. And moving our way forward, looking at all these plugs, everything else looks pretty solid. I did end up actually wiring in a whole new ignition and key and all that. So I did pull off the old one that I didn't have a key for, chop the plug off of there and actually chop the plug off the brand new key and ignition I bought and just wired it all in to the correct colors and all and so forth. Plugged it in, and I think we should be good to go. So now I'm actually gonna toss a jump pack on the positive and negative terminal, probably jump this fuse right now and see if we have any power on this thing, and maybe even hear the starter crank. And eventually I actually want to start seeing if we got spark, and go through there, maybe check out the carburetor and kind of just go through the whole process and hopefully hear this thing run by tomorrow. All right, so I just hooked up a jump pack onto the positive and negative terminals on here, and then I kind of jumped the fuse. It might be kind of hard to see down there, but I got both sides of the wire touching each side of one fuse, just so we have power going through this all. I will end up replacing that later, so don't worry about it. So let's turn this thing on, and let's see if we have power. So I'm set the key. Okay, we got a little neutral light. That's cool. I'm just really curious if this LED light works back here, so let's I guess just turn them all the way on. All right, it does not work, so we got no lights. Let's see, can we crank it? Okay, so we got nothing. That's a little weird. So I'm really curious why it's not cranking through the button. Let me see if I can kind of jump the two starter terminals and maybe hear this thing crank. Ooh, okay. Oh, jump pack turned off, nice. Okay, she cranks over nice and smooth. I do have the spark plug out, so this thing's probably cranking over way quicker than it really should. So, hey, we know it cranks, so now we can at least test for spark. And I also want to pop the air filter off the carb here and just check out the inside of the carb, make sure that's all looking clean. So once we get the spark plug and the battery tomorrow, we can hook it all up and throw some fuel in this thing and hopefully hear a run for the first time. Kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update, kind of where I'm at. Sorry for the noise from the fans in the background, but I ended up looking at the ignition coil here and just thought the wiring that was on this thing was a little too sketchy. You can see how it has a plug there, and then it's got another tape section there, and then it was connected to the wiring harness from another point, and then the ground wire here had the ground wire to another connector to the wiring harness. So I ended up actually just chopping this thing off and wiring in that one I stole from the other ATV, and I'm here just testing spark, and I wanted to show you guys the spark. It might be really hard to see. There's my big screwdriver. We can pop the starter, but you guys can kind of look right there. Oh, yeah. We do have spark. So once we actually get a spark plug in this thing, I really think if I can spray some ether into the carb here, we should hear this thing fire up. So I'm pretty stoked. So I'll probably end up just catching you guys tomorrow once I actually have the brand new spark plugs and battery. And let's hear this baby run finally. I know I keep saying it. What's up, guys? So it's actually 2 days later from that last clip. So yesterday I ended up getting the new spark plug in and also picked up a battery for this thing, so we can actually have a full battery in this instead of running off the jump box. And something happened with me installing that battery and the spark plug or something, because right after I installed the battery, I was just testing for spark again, making sure everything's actually working, and we lost all spark. So it's a little weird on how that happened. I really think it might just be from me running the fuse kind of in line with it without a fuse in there. So I kind of just put a little ghetto one in there real quick, so there is a fuse in line now, so we should be good to go. And then I ended up just going on Amazon real quick and picking up a whole little kit, so now we can actually fix this thing up 100%. So we got a brand new starter solenoid, so we can actually start it with the starter button. Hopefully that's kind of the goal with this thing. But it came with a brand new ignition coil, so we can wire that in, since I think I fried this one, and I really didn't want to install the one I took off the other day because that thing is pretty shoddy as well. So just put a brand new one in it, get it all knocked out. And it also came with a new CDI box and a little controller box for something. I'm not really too sure, but hey, if we need it, we have it to replace it. So I'm actually gonna start working on it, getting all this installed and actually fixed up, and hopefully hear this thing run for the first time. Actually, me cranking this thing over a few times actually showed me something, because I walked out here today and saw a nice puddle of oil on the floor. So seems like it's leaking from this bottom gasket right around here, and I was feeling one of the bolts down there and it just kept spinning. I tried tightening it up, kept spinning, so we might have to look into that later, but I still want to get this thing started up for you guys today, at least hear it run, and then if so, we can actually work on it a little bit more. So let's get to work on it, enough talking, and finally hear this thing run for once. It's finally moment of truth to try and start this thing and see if she fires. So I did wire in the new starter solenoid and the new ignition coil as well. So those are all good to go. And I did check spark on this thing. So we do have spark finally. Got a brand new spark plug put in it. So it's finally time to let it rip. For some reason, I still don't have the starter button on the handlebars here, but just jumping the little solenoid there, we can kind of get it running for the most part. Can't really let it run too long if it does run, just because as you can tell by the puddle of oil, it is leaking oil out. But looking at the little view on the side of the engine here, it does still have a good bit of oil in it, so I'm not really running this thing dry. I'm just gonna see if this thing will actually run. I did check the carb as well. I forgot to tell you about that, but she is nice and clean, so I'm not really too worried about that. I do have some starter fluid here if we need to, but got some fresh gas in it, so hopefully, let's see if this thing will run. So let's kick this thing on. We got our neutral. See, you can see I still don't have anything there, but there's my flat tip. All right, make sure the choke's closed. Moment of truth. All right. Hold on. Let's open this up. Spray a little bit of starting fluid in there. Close her up. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, so let's see if I can hit the throttle and do this all at once. No fucking way. Hey, it ran on the starting fluid, so that's a start at least. Okay, so here, let me see. Do we have the fuel on? We should have fuel in there, so let me try starting this thing again. Nothing. Let's spray a little bit more starting fluid in there. Close that choke up. Hey, we did hear a fire at least, so that's a start. Oh, god damn it. Alright, let me see if I can get you guys like set up in the corner, and let me see if I can let this thing run for a little bit. That's looking pretty good. Alright, let's see if we can get this thing run. Kind of hard to do with one hand. I just want to kill the battery, that's my biggest thing. Hey, there we go! Damn, I really want to see if we can get this thing to run. And stay running. Let's see. Fuck! Hey, we heard a fire, so at least we know this thing runs. Really, maybe need to clean the carb out a little bit, see what's going on with that thing. Or just get some more gas in it, because I really didn't put much in it at all. Well, I just found the issue walking to the other side and looking at it real quick. I totally forgot to put the spark plug little thing on all the way, so that would kind of make sense. It's kind of getting half spark. So let's try this again and see if we can get this thing to run. Ran way better that time. Hell yeah. I'm stoked. Alright. I think I just need to get some fresh gas in this thing, and this thing should run like a top. Alright, so after that last clip, I just been sitting here trying to start this thing with some starting fluid. I even found whatever gas I can find around here, tossed it in the tank, trying to get this thing to at least try to idle for like 10 seconds or so I can at least show you guys this thing runs. But you guys did hear, we both heard, it did start up and kind of putt a little bit, which that's all I can really get from this thing. And after a few more tries, the starter ended up kind of blowing up. So this is what she sounds like now. So it just seems like it's just spinning right inside there. It's not really shooting out and hitting the flywheel. Maybe we blew the teeth off the flywheel. Who knows? I don't really know at this point. And I'm kind of pissed off. So I did all this work just to hear it kind of putt. So it is what it is. At least I did kind of hear it fire up, and you guys did as well. I just really wanted to see if we can get this 125 actually running, and hopefully just slap a chain on it and some brakes and actually drive this thing around and see how fast it does and kind of tune it up from there. Because my whole goal with this thing is to actually build it into a drag bike. So throw some slicks on it, maybe put an extended swing arm on it, put some skinnies on it, make this thing just really fast, maybe make it like 70, 80, because all the other toys around here only go like 30 to 50 miles per hour, and I really want that one toy that just is really too fast for really anyone that ride, and just something that's just really fast in a straight line. That's all I really want right now. So that's kind of the whole goal with this thing, is to build it into a drag bike. So I really want to see if I can get this 125 running and actually driving, because I think this will actually give me a little bit more top speed, actually having a few gears on it, and it would give me reverse at the end of the day. But I'm just so convinced on putting a 6 horsepower on this thing and just calling it a day like the other 2 quads I just built. But I really want to give a little bit more power to this thing, so I've been really thinking about the 11 horsepower I got hiding under the desk here, so that might be an option. But I want to still try to fight for this 125, so probably see you in the next video when I actually work on this thing. I guess I'm going to pick up a new starter for this thing, and I want to try and drive this thing, so I'm going to pick up a new chain for it, and also get the brakes, try to figure out the brakes on this thing, and I want to try to drive it next video. That's really the goal. At least we heard it putt and kind of fire up a little bit, so we know this thing runs, but we need to figure out the little nitty-gritty stuff with it and actually figure out what's going on with that oil leak, because it just made a nice puddle on the floor and I'm kind of mad about. So it is what it is. But this thing is, the goal is to make it a drag bike. So at the end of the day, if anything, we just engine swap it and put some nice slicks on the rear, put some skinnies on the front, and have some fun with it. Especially with the 11 horsepower, that it would have double the power as the other quad, since they're only 6 horsepower basically. So it would rip pretty fast, especially if we gear it up. And it could probably hit whatever we really want. But other than that, I'm glad we at least got to hear this thing fire for once in this video. This thing's just been fighting me the whole way basically. So, but for 40 bucks, I really can't complain, because this thing is all complete for the most part. It is more complete than the other 2 quads I built. The other quad I got hiding over there. But other than that, I think I'm gonna call the wraps on this video. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hope you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and peace out.